have to get your thoughts on Mamdani, of course, New York City mayor-elect. Zohran Mamdani, he still believes that Donald Trump is a fascist. Let's take a look at this.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
Trump is brilliant there. Caitlin, you've been speaking out about the irony of the female Mamdani voters. Can you explain to us what you mean by this?
I'll give you this. It's a real disconnect. And for your viewers, will understand me on this. The irony of the woman Mamdani voter, it's the same females that were screaming and going on TikTok complaining about the random punches or how unsafe the streets are, how riding the subway is scary to them. And so there's a real disconnect between what they say they want and then what these women actually voted for. This man's platform calls for sending in social workers to domestic violent assault. No police officer. He's back decriminalizing prostitution, and he wants to divert millions away from law enforcement. So that all goes against what these young females complain about on their social media on a day-to-day basis. So none of this is actually reform. It's regression. But the problem is Mamdani was really good on social media at running an algorithm, at speaking to these young Gen Zers, these young cohort voters, the younger cohort of voter that is confused right now. They are lost, they're broke, they can't afford to buy homes, and he spoke directly to them. He said, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Capitalism failed you, and I'm here to help. So again, affordability, it's a main theme we saw out of all of this. And if Republicans don't get up and do something about the affordability crises that the Democrats, quite frankly, left us, we are going to see a radicalized wave of Mamdanis all over the country because no one is listening to these young voters in Washington, D.C. They feel disenfranchised, and that's why this happened. The young female voters, they need to be educated because there's a clear disconnect on the messaging on social media and what they actually preach about and what they actually say they want. So I just want to be here as far as educating. I'm not here to preach to anybody or to discredit any females for their opinions, but I think there's a real disconnect happening right now.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Now let's talk about the fallout from the Epstein saga, Epstein scandal. Multiple staff members, including former Harvard president and economist Larry Summers, have been linked to Epstein in newly released emails. Now, Harvard has launched a probe into the matter while Summers has announced that he'll be stepping away from his teaching. This emails show that Summers repeatedly appearing in communications with Epstein. Now, it's interesting, the Epstein fallout, it's really backfiring on many Democrats, calling for the files to be released. And now Harvard is dealing with the fallout. Caitlin, what do you make of this?
The irony of this Ivy League institution being as a centerpiece of all of this is just so rich, Gabriella, for everything we've been through over the past few years of this wokeness era. But I think this is a big nothing burger. I think it's a distraction. I don't think the American people voted to keep talking about Epstein when we have so many crises here at home. Of course, we want transparency. We want our institutions to get to the bottom of this, to release the files, release whatever information the American people deserve. But Donald Trump, if his name was on any of these lists, the Democrats would have released it years ago.
Absolutely.
So Larry Summers, this Harvard involvement, the Democrats file dump exonerated Trump, and it actually implicated them. So the irony here continues to be rich. Larry Summers asking dating advice from Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, it's a great comedy. If you have nothing to do on your weekend and you want to tune into what our government's putting out on the Epstein files, yes, sure. But there's real problems here at home, and I think that's what we should focus on.
Now let's talk about the midterm elections, looking at next year. How important will the Make America Healthy Again movement be, especially when it comes to the midterms?
Huge. I think the Make America Healthy Again movement is the bridge that Republicans have been looking for as far as how to reach the female voters. We have both parties right now whining in the past few weeks since these past elections earlier this month. Where are the female voters? Why didn't the women get out to vote? I can tell you why, because neither of the candidates that were running in those races decided to put MAHA on the ballot. None of them decided to speak directly to the females at home, speak to what their emotional bandwidth is. And us women, we're telling everyone to their faces what we care about. We care about our kids' health. We care about what's in our food supply, the environmental toxins, all of these topics that we're screaming from the rooftops. So that's how you get the women voters out there. Women don't care about your 5-point economic plan. They care about their skin. They care about feeding their children. They care about what they're putting into their bodies, onto their bodies, what's living in their environment. And that's a winning message. So whichever party puts Maha on the ballot, puts Maha as a centerpiece ahead of midterms, that's the party that's going to win.
Caitlin Sinclair, media strategist for Maha PAC. Thank you so much for your time. Great to talk to you.
You as well.